Have you heard of or ever listened to Squawking Dead?
Yes, well, I mean, I've been following you guys' page for a while.
Awesome!
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
I always get a little bit nervous to ask that question. I feel like people are just going to, say what we want to hear. But honestly, I try to let everybody know about it.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
We are we're a different kind of podcast.
Yeah, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we go very deep into the episodes.
That's good.
Yeah, so.
Well, and I'm hoping I'm giving enough detail that, most people might not.
Oh, absolutely.
Some people don't think to ask or whatever, because, I mean, I got a ton of great stories from out there, so it's just, I try to, give people some stuff that they can.
And this is the meat that we love.
Okay, well then,
Yes.
That's awesome.
So, what do you miss the most about being on The Walking Dead?
Oh, clearly the heat.
Oh, obviously.
A number of things. I really geek out on, the comics as well, so I was a huge fan of the comics. So I would read ahead, and then, when we'd get story time before we went out to set, I could tell if it was a recreation from the comic. Mm-hmm. I kind of became sort of like the translator from the comic to the show to tell everybody else, hey, they're doing a comic panel tonight.
Oh, nice.
And, people get really fired up about that. So, and then just kind of seeing it once it finally airs, I just kind of missed the whole process of it.
So you said you read the comic books. Did you read them even before you were on the show?
I did. I actually, so probably around 2005, 6, a buddy of mine, he was like, hey, you're a horror fan, there's this comic book that's out that I think you'd really dig. I was like, well, I'm not a super huge comic guy, but so he sent me an issue of it, and I started reading. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I read a couple issues, but at the time I was, still in the military and pretty busy, so I just really didn't keep up with it all. And then when it finally came out, I was like, wait a minute, that's that comic that my buddy sent me. So, then I started, just like everybody else, once you watch that first episode, you're kind of drawn in. And then that made me, want to go back and, start reading all of them. Then the compendiums came out, and that's kind of how I did my binge reading. People binge Netflix. Well, I was binge reading the compendiums. So,
Yeah. Do you remember what issue was the first one? What issue did you start with?
He sent me the very first one.
Oh, okay. So you started the comics right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like you, I'd watch the show and be like, oh, this is straight out of the books, and it would be exciting to recognize those things.
Right.
So.
Well, and one thing that's one of the most notable things about that for me, speaking about recreations from the comic to the show. So when we went to Alexandria and Negan did the little pig let me in thing.
Yes.
Okay. So for the first day, I was nothing but sightlines for Andy Lincoln. So when he's beating on the gate and you see his shadow, well, then you see a big shadow next to him. That was me.
Oh, nice.
And, when you'd see Andy, just sitting there listening, he kept, glancing over to his right. He was looking at me. So I didn't see the camera the entire day. And I had just come off of 21 days of antibiotics because I caught Lyme disease out there.
Oh, no.
So I still had the sun sensitivity. So, I mean, I was cooking, I was dying, so I was trying to hide for the rest of the time, because I think it was a 2 or 3 day shoot. Later in the day, as we progressed the scene, one of the PAs come up and they're like, hey, big man, we need you up here. I was like, okay, so they pulled me up to the front, they told this other dude, hey, get to the back, and then they put me in there, then all the main actors fell in. And then I'm looking around at where the vehicles and all that stuff were, I was like, dude, this is a comic recreation from the panel of us entering Alexandria. And I was one of the front 5 coming in. Now,
so
the comic
cool.
character doesn't look like me, but they wanted that presence there, I guess, and I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, so you're Daryl's prisoner of escort, so motivating when he doesn't want to move.
So being a former savior, how do you feel? What do you think about Negan's transformation?
Well, I think he's a hell of a survivor. It was necessary for him to adapt. When you watch the Here's Negan episode, he wasn't like that to start out with. That whole thing with his, with his wife and stuff, that changed him. It made him a very bitter and very brutal individual.
Yeah.
I think had that not happened, I don't think he would have been. We would have never have been. That's just my opinion. He's done what's necessary, and he's very street smart in the apocalypse world, so...
Yeah. This Negan that we're seeing now is more true to maybe who he is.
Yeah, before he snapped,
Yeah,
I think so. I think he's just, at this point, he has responsibility now. Not several wives, just because he's,
Right.
but he has one, he has a baby on the way, and he's trying to get some semblance of his own humanity back, I guess.
Yeah. You can tell he wants that redemption.
Yeah, and you can tell, too, that he feels bad about what he did, but nonetheless, he is at least owning it.
Which
and
is
that's
a huge thing. Accountability.
Yeah, and he is. He's not shying away from it. He's, he's giving people point value. Hey, I was not a good person.
Yep, I know what I did.
Did some things.
I'm making up for it.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to set it right. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Is there anything else in particular that you're going to always remember from set?
You know, once you understand the magnitude of what it is, you know, because I'll be out there sometimes, you know, even in between takes, you know, just like staring at the moon, looking at the trees, just feeling what the temperature is, just absorbing it all, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be part of a project that big. I'm very nostalgic with that kind of stuff. So when I do, I mean, every time I'm down in Sonoy, I will always drive back to where the studio is and just kind of look around for a minute. And I remember when I used to pull up there and they check my name on the list and all that stuff. So yeah, I do miss it. It was amazing.
Is there any character in particular that you wish could have their own spinoff?
Well, my favorite guy, and I said this during the panel out there a few minutes ago, and it shocked some people, but I was a fan of Shane.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Well, and the reason why is because he was practical. He understood it early, and he was ready for it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love Rick too. You know, I love the character, but I think in terms of effectiveness of leadership, I think Shane would have been better suited for it than Rick. Because Shane was willing to make the hard decisions and fast. When I met John Bernthal, I said, man, they killed you off entirely too fast. And I was ready to see more.
Yep.
You know, and he appreciated that. He goes, I get a lot of haters. I was like, no, I'm sure you do. Yeah. Man. I was like, yeah, but you also got a lot of fans too.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
Could you picture what it would have been like if Merle and Shane were still alive when they met Negan and the Saviors?
Oh my gosh.
I don't think that skirmish would have lasted nearly as long.
Oh no. Oh, Shane would have
Shane and Merle.
And between Shane and Merle, yeah.
Yeah, those two cats were militarily minded in terms of tactic. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what would have been the difference. Yeah, Negan had the numbers, and he also had the fear factor because everybody was scared shitless of this guy. That would have been a heavyweight fight to see.
Yeah, we love the what ifs on Squawking Dead too. We always talk about what if this character had survived? How would this character and this character have interacted on screen?
How does that dynamic shift? Yeah.
Those are really fun conversations to have, especially because we're never going to see it, right? So it is all hypothetical.
Sure.
You know, we have no idea, so we get to.
Well, that's the fun part of it, though.
Yeah.
That's the fun part that you could talk about around the water cooler on Monday. Mm-hmm. You know, hey, so what if this would happen? You know, so and you could talk about it forever. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you never know who's going to be right because it's obviously not going to happen.
Well, we're all right.
Is there anything that you maybe swiped and kept for yourself from set?
I do have a couple of things, but they were like things that wouldn't affect anything. I have a couple of rocks from Abraham's bloody brain pile. And I was actually going to go get some from Glenn's, and the PA started watching me, but I actually have it. I have it in a Ziploc baggie, tagged like an evidence bag, the date that we filmed it, whose brain matter it was.
Oh my God!
All the stuff. So yeah, I've got 4 rocks from it, but they're starting to fade. Like they're no longer as crimson as they were.
Sure. As blood does, right?
Yeah, but I've got those and some of the pouches like they filled with the tar, you know, when they burned up Hilltop.
Yeah.
So there was like hundreds of these things laying along the fence line at Hilltop. Mm-hmm. You know, so I mean, it was all trash at that point. So I was essentially helping clean up.
Yeah.
So I got 2 of those. Yeah. So that's like pretty much my souvenirs.
Those kind of things. I imagine they wouldn't mind at all that people took those because, like you said, it's kind of like helping clean up the set. Yeah, it's kind of like clean up the place and take care of the environment a little bit. Just take one of these.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they knew it was happening. They just really were like, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for helping us out. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, how are you feeling going into the finale tonight, knowing that the mother show, anyways? And I know we still have a long way to go with the spin-offs and everything, which is awesome. But there's some weight to feeling the ending of the mother show that started it all.
I posted a pretty long thing about it the other day on social media. I saw it. Parts of me says they maybe could have ended it a little sooner. Some episodes seem almost forced now, like they're trying to just really these past 3 episodes. They're trying to really rush to a storyline. It felt like to me. Maybe they could have tailored it off maybe a season or 2 ago, but then other parts of me say no, I don't want it to ever end. Right. You know, because it has been such a huge part of our culture for the past, 11 years now. Mm-hmm. 11, 12 years, however long. I'm just so used to it. And, having spent 4 years of my life out there, I'm sad to see it go. My hope is that they have a way to finish it strong because you see so many iconic series sort of miss the mark. And I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a few that I was really angry with because I felt like they could have done more and they didn't. Like they kind of took an easy way out. Yeah. There's been so many people that have not only worked on the show, but have also supported it, the fan base. And It's not just in the United States, it's around the world.
The whole world.
You know, I mean, like some of my prints that I have out there, they are literally on almost every continent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've mailed them out to everywhere. They're in South America, they're in Australia, New Zealand, Iceland.
Oh, wow.
Most of Europe. And I'm more than happy to send that stuff to them.
That's awesome. It really is a family around the whole world.
Yeah. I was working overseas in 2017, doing some stuff, and I had a layover in Rome when I was coming back to the States. And I was on Twitter at the time, and for some reason they had kind of like gravitated towards me because they were trying to get a Walker Stalker to Italy.
Okay.
Because their closest one would have been like Germany, and that's a long ways away geographically. Yeah. I was just trying to give them information like, okay, well, here's their page, here's their general email information, stuff like that. But then I told them, I put the announcement out, I was like, listen, I have a layover in Rome on this day. Here's the hotel I'm at if you guys would like to do a meet and greet. You know, I'd be more than happy to meet you guys and everything, and we can sit around and chat or whatever you want to do.
Oh, cool.
And I had about close to 20 people show up.
That's awesome.
And they did not speak very good English.
Oh, no.
and I was a little worried about the language barrier, but you know what? We figured it out. There was a young lady there. She was in college. So she was kind of like the interpreter.
Okay, that's good.
And so she could get through it. I nicknamed her Taylor Swift, you know, because she said she didn't like her. I was like, well, that's your nickname now.
Oh, right.
So, you know, you can't tell me stuff like that because I'm going to bust your chops. I don't care where you're from. Now you are. Well, she just laughed at it. She was a really good sport. I had some prints left over that I had emailed to myself. So I went to a local print shop over there, had a bunch of prints printed up. And, it wasn't like my AMC prints because you got to order those. But, like, just my regular ones that I took, like headshots, cool savior shots. I autographed those for them and gave them to them. And like they had saw on Twitter, it was my birthday like the month before. They brought me like a couple of birthday presents.
Oh my god!
They made me like a happy birthday banner and all that stuff.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And they stayed for about 3.5 hours.
Wow. And
we just sat there and we chatted and had the best time and we laughed and joked. And I mean, it's one of those things that you can defeat a language barrier because of the fandom in that show.
Absolutely.
Some of them, still are on my actor page and they say hello every once in a while. And it's just really cool to be able to do that with people. So
connect with people all around the world.
Yeah,
that is so cool.
Yeah.
I love this family, and it is all around the world.
And they get so excited about it. I ran into 2 ladies in the airport in Rome, and they kept looking at me. And so I'm just sitting there, and I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. Well, then one of them, she came up, she said, hello, excuse, and I was like, hi, and she showed me a picture of the Walking Dead logo, and she pointed to it. I was like, oh, I like that show. Do you like? And she's like, yeah, I like it. And she's like, no, you. I was like, oh, hang on. And then I pulled up my shot with me and Daryl. And then she all of a sudden, blah, 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 to her friend, she's like talking really, really fast. Well, then they asked for a picture and all that stuff. And it was kind of cool to get recognized out in the wild overseas.
Yeah.
So that was
not
really
at a
unique.
Convention or anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to get home. I'm not wearing anything identifying.
Yep.
I was just wearing like regular clothes.
Yeah,
so
you've worked on some projects since being on The Walking Dead too. Can you tell us about that?
Honestly, the last thing I filmed was a sizzle trailer for a book series called Zombie Road.
Okay.
And that was 2020. But it was neat because the character's name is Grizz. He's a disgruntled veteran. Basically, I don't have to act anything. I'll just be myself and then let's roll. And it was so funny because the guy that authored the books, I mean, it put him to tears, like, my interpretation of this character. He's like, you're it. That book series, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it has been picked up by producers that also work Z Nation.
Okay.
So
all right.
there's I think, don't quote me on that 100%. So apologies if that's incorrect. But it got picked up by some higher level producers, and they're from what I heard, they're not going to cast any of us.
Oh.
So, but that's fine,
really?
But I am the OG Grizz, so if it does make it, just pick somebody awesome to fill that role.
Oh man! Well, I hope it's you if something comes to that.
You know
this
what?
was a trailer.
Yeah, it was
original.
Yeah, it was a sizzle trailer, and it actually turned out really, really good. But other than that, I've kind of, just to be honest, I've taken my foot off the gas with it. The whole thing with COVID and how restricted people have become. I don't have time to break away and go test 3 different times before I even step foot on set to film anything. I have a Monday through Friday job. And I don't have that kind of time. I don't have that flexibility anymore. So if it was like a day before or a morning of thing, then cool, let's do it. But they're still following those protocols, and until those ease up some, I'm not really interested in pursuing. Now, if somebody offers me, especially independent stuff, I love independent stuff. So if somebody says, "Hey, I got a part for you. Are you interested?" Yeah, let's talk about it.
Awesome.
Talk me through it. What do we got? And if I can make it happen, then I'd love to. So again,
it's not the end all be all.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, like I said in my post, if I never do anything else again, in my mind, I've made it.
Yeah.
Because I came from a very small town, and at the time, it's grown a lot now. But just there's really nothing like that going on there. So it's kind of a cool thing to be a part of it.
How did you become part of the Walking Dead cast?
Okay, so I did the Rob Zombie thing in 2015. It was like a crowdsourced thing that he did. So I participated. I invested in, bucket list item. Never thought I'd be able to do anything. Opportunity. I'm a huge fan of his music and his movies.
Oh, yeah.
No brainer. Let's do it. So several months later was Walker Stalker. And Lou Temple was there. Well, Lou was in 31 also. He and I didn't shoot a scene together, but I've known Lou since like 2013. I met him in a horror con up in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I went to his table and I saw him. And, he'd already known that I was like working 31 because, we exchanged like emails and stuff every once in a while. So I'm standing in line, and I'm, with my family and stuff. And I was like, hey, he saw me out there. He's like, hey, dude, get out of that line. Come up here. And so there's like 15 people in front of me, so I felt kind of weird. And I was like, hey, I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. And he tells him, he's like, he and I are in 31 together. And then immediately, oh, cool. People started like breaking out cameras and stuff.
Oh, cool.
And we're just kind of like talking about filming the movie and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, dude, I'm bucking really hard to try to get on Walking Dead. And he's like, well, talk to those people. Talk to, he was giving me these different names and stuff. Well, then Travis Love was there as a guest as well. He was the other henchman of the governor. Not Martinez, like the short dreads. He was the big, muscly dude with the 50 cal in the back of the.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I went over and I talked to him, and we had become friends, from a couple of years before at a convention I met him at. And I told him the same. I was like, yeah, man, I'm bucking really hard to get on The Walking Dead. He goes, well, I used to work with those cats that cast for that. And he goes, and they've got a table set up right over there. He's like, come on, let's go. So he walked over there with me and introduced me. He's like, hey, if you can get my dude here, something.
Yeah.
Then, maybe hook him up. He's a good guy and all stuff. He really vouched for me, and I really appreciate that to this day. So thank you, Trap Love. You're awesome. That was on a Sunday. I went and I filmed with Vampire Diaries on Tuesday. I got to the hotel here in Covington. I was like exhausted, but I was like, let me email these guys because I had submitted a whole bunch of times. Mm-hmm. But I actually mentioned the guys that I met by name. And I was like, it was a pleasure meeting you. Again, I'm still very interested in working with you one of these days. Here's my pictures again, as a refresher. So I was like, all right, cool, sent. So then fast forward to Thursday of the same week, and it's like almost midnight. And I'm sitting there on my laptop doing something. I get this email, and it's from the casting folks, and they're like, okay, so hey, how's it going? We showed production your pictures. They really like your look. Are you available for this date? I can't remember the name they said. They didn't say Saviors, but it was like Green Boots Crew or something like that.
Okay, all right.
So they gave it like a cheesy little, kind of cover type thing. Though, can you be available on this date? And I was like, hell yes, I can. I felt like that dude in the movie Rudy when he finally got into Notre Dame. I literally shed tears. I was like, sitting there, I was like, I finally made it,
That's awesome.
But I was expecting maybe one episode, cannon fodder, because they were killing a lot of these guys off. I was like, cool, you know what, no problem. I can go and say I was a part of it. That's neat.
Yeah.
Well, I got out there, and, we did a daytime shoot. It was that giant roadblock they hit, the last one before they were trying to get to Hilltop when Maggie was having problems.
Yep.
I was the leader of that roadblock. Oh. They didn't zoom in on us, but you could see the patch in my beard. And then Abraham's like, Rick, and he comes up and looks, and all of us are spread across the road. Yeah, I'm dead center with an AK-47.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was cool, and I was like, well, this is neat. They gave me some front and center kind of stuff. This is really awesome. But then we went out for the night shoot to start shooting the introduction for Negan out there at the RV. And I'm out there. I wasn't expecting anything. And they come around and they started hand selecting people. And they were like, we need a big guy on Abraham, so you come with us. And they singled me out again. I freaked because they walk us from, base camp down to the site, and everybody's out there. Rick's out there, Glenn's out there, Abraham's out there, Sasha's out there. They are all literally there. It's like your TV wrapped around you. Uh-huh. And I'm sitting there, I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this shit. And I got so nervous. Oh. I did. I was like, oh my God. Well then, they were like introducing us to who we were going to be paired up on. So of course Cutlets comes up, hey man, how you doing? And introduced himself and everything. It was so cold out there, but I had to take his 9mm and his knife from him. And I didn't have gloves on, so I was starting to like really get cold and like lose dexterity, and like one of his snaps was like rusted.
Oh no. So
it was a real pain in the ass to try to like get off. And after about the third time I struggled, you could tell he was not real pleased with my performance.
Oh boy.
So I was like, is there any way we can kind of like rig this to where I could just, get it and get off you? Yeah. Type stuff. He goes, we can try, but I'm running before that, so I might lose it. So we kind of like, finagled a way to keep it in there. Yeah. So then, that worked fine. And once I got comfortable with it, because we had to shoot it over and over and over. And at one point, I got nose to nose with him because they said, intimidate.
Okay.
They said, intimidate, we need a big guy on this dude, so you need to muscle him. I was like, all right. So once I took his stuff out, I got nose to nose with him, and then I threw his knife. I was like, I wish they would have shown that head to head.
Yeah.
Because he did. He's looking at me, and he looked, he portrayed it very, very well. Like, oh boy.
That would have been awesome to see.
We're in deep shit here. So Greg had walked around and picked out like 5 of us at night and said, we need core faces for this group. Can you guys be available for the next couple of seasons as we need you? So, of course, I was like, hell yeah. I don't know what my real job's going to say, but we'll figure it out. But I didn't tell them that. All I said was yes.
Yep. I'll figure the rest out later.
Yeah, and I ended up staying all the way until, just over halfway through season 10 and roughly 25 episodes. So.
Yeah. Oh, and I remember your last episode, too.
Yeah.
Seeing you on screen, and I'm just, oh, my gosh. And we had met by then, too, so I saw you on screen, and I'm like, oh, no, William.
Yeah. If you're going to go out in a blaze of glory, which
Absolutely.
I got. And one thing, because people mention it all the time, hey, we looked at your IMDb, you've only got this episodes listed. All the ones I can be seen in are the ones that I list.
Okay.
I can work an episode, but if I'm not seen, I don't list it.
Okay.
That's just...
In the final cut?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like if I work the episode, but for some reason, if you can't see me, if they got me working like deep background or something like that, I don't put that on there because it's kind of a waste of time. 25 episodes total, but I think I've got like 18 or 19 listed. So
That's
a pretty decent
still a
record.
Decent number.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Good number. And mine's 0, so.
Well, you know what? Hey, you know what? You've got 18 or 19 by proxy.
Oh, there we go.
You have an honorary 18 or 19 episodes.
That's right. Do you have a favorite character on the show?
I talked about Shane earlier.
Yeah.
He was, but for later, I really loved how savage Rick became. Like when he bit that dude's neck out.
Oh my gosh.
I was just like, I was like, dude. I was like, he is gone feral.
Yeah.
And I loved it though. He became what Shane was already almost at.
Yes. Yeah.
So essentially, Rick kind of became Shane.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Shane was just already there, right?
Yeah, Shane he just kind of like laid the groundwork for it. Yep. So just working with Andy, that guy, especially when you're trying to learn the industry, I got into it really late. I was in my early 40s when I first started. So, there's a lot of catching up to do if you want to do anything serious with it or any kind of pursuit. But you have a guy, a classically trained British actor, that has given you an expo demo on how to do this stuff. And you're getting to work with him 12, 14, 15 hours a day. You're seeing this guy just putting it all out there. That is his set.
Yeah.
You know he is the chief of that whole situation. Seeing him that way makes you want to step your game up. How do I complement that energy? How do I meet that energy? You want it to be the very best it can be. My second to last episode when we were fighting Whispers when they burned down Hilltop, I'm out there and it's Kari Payton and I shoulder to shoulder. And at one point, when they started doing that camera scene where they're backing through us and it's showing us all getting hit with the tar and stuff, I'm sitting out there and I'm starting to get spun up because I've got stunt walkers on my shield. And they're like trying to grab it, and they're coming for me. And I told them, I was like, if you can rip it out of my hands, if you can break it, if you can get a hold of me, let's do that. And they're like, all right, man. They're like, we're ready. And they're scrappy. They were scrappy. But, I'm sitting there and I'm starting to get like fired up. And he looks at me. He's like, if they're going to put that camera in your face for 2 seconds, you better tell a hell of a story in that 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And he's like, so bring it. And then he hits me in the chest. And tears started rolling. I started like Hulk raging.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because at one point on one of those takes, I was one hand and one knee on the ground, shield was up, and I had like 5 of these cats on top of that shield.
Oh, man.
So, and then they told me later on, they was like, yeah, don't go to a knee. We need you to stay upright.
Okay.
They're like, it looks badass, but, we need you to stay upright just for the dynamic of the scene. I was like, yeah, no problem. And then the whole thing where he took my sledgehammer.
Yep.
That was not scripted.
Oh.
Like after he lost his swords, after about the 3rd take, he goes, I have no weapon. And he's like, are they going to let you use your hammer at all? I was like, they are not. They want me to stay a shield. He's like, you want to do something cool? And I was like, sure. He goes, you mind if I borrow your hammer? I was like, not at all. So on the next take, we're out there getting freaking spun up, and yep, sure enough, he freaking loses his swords. He glances again, and he freaking yanks it off my back, starts beating it. And I think it was Mikey directing it. He was going nuts over there. I mean, you could. He's like, oh, F yes, it's a cheers over there. Like, he is so excited. So we kept it, and it ended up making that final cut.
Yeah.
But that was something that he and I just come up with just talking.
That's awesome.
And, on that second night, we're just kind of standing around out there, and he pulls his phone out. He's like, hey, big man, come here real quick. I was like, hey, what's up, boss? He's like, mind if I get a selfie with you? I was like, no, not at all. And he's like, yeah, we got to document this stuff, man. This is like the war. And I was like, yeah. Then I asked him for a copy of it. He goes, I can't share it right now, but like I'll post it out and you're free to grab it or whatever. And Jerry's behind us with the story. He's making that crazy face. So it's just us three.
That's awesome.
So I got it printed up, hanging on my wall and all that stuff. So, awesome. And what's crazy too, that formation that marched out to the line there at Hilltop, we actually did an 8-hour practice for that a couple of days prior. Well, what's interesting is essentially it's a drill movement, like a military formation. All right. Well, I spent 4 years as a military training instructor in the Air Force, which is a drill sergeant, and that's all I taught. Aside from some of the other classes and stuff, and like how to set up their dorm and all that, but as far as like drill movements and flanking and all that stuff, I literally taught that for 4 years.
Wow.
So the PAs are up there and they're trying to explain it. They were kind of struggling a little bit. And so we took a break and I walked over to them. I was like, guys, do you mind if I jump in and help you out with this? And I explained to them my resume.
Yep.
And they were like, absolutely. I was like, all right. So then I kind of, I'm in the formation, but I'm also coaching as we're doing. I was like, no, you need to like dress to your right on this, to the center, because of how they're wanting to keep us together and all this stuff. And we did. We tuned it up. It's a lot of people that don't know anything about that stuff. So, but they got it down pretty good. Then you saw the final result. That was pretty awesome that they allowed me the opportunity to do so.
Sharing your talents on set and helping out. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
For what made for a better story. It looked better on screen because of it.
I had a couple of veterans in the group, though, and they were like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Well, they weren't drills like I was. They weren't a drill sergeant like I was, so I was able to give them that. Yeah. I was like, dudes, I went through a whole lot of school to learn how to teach this. And I, so here, let me help you out with this. And they were gracious enough to let me do so. So I did. Yeah.
It's one thing to follow direction. It's completely different to give direction.
Yeah. Well, and I did. I had to break it down Barney style.
Sure.
Just like I would a bunch of trainees that have never touched this stuff before.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I did. And I was like, okay, so here's what we're doing. This is what the look that they're looking for. And this is how you achieve that look. Getting them all to step off on the left foot together was a task all in and of itself. So, but once we all got that, it started looking, pretty decent. So.
Is there a show or a movie? Because I feel like that, kind of got to throw both of those in there. A show or a movie that you love, the way this family just loves The Walking Dead. Anything that you can just watch over and over and just feel that connection to.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yep. High Plains Drifter.
Okay.
Clint Eastwood movie, 1973. It was his very first directing gig, and it was his lowest budget gig.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and that guy was a hardcore individual.
Yeah.
So I love Clint Eastwood stuff, and I love westerns and horror. But they're like they're neck and neck to me. I can sit down and watch either or, and I'm perfectly content.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think High Plains Drifter is just a really good revenge story. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you have an opportunity one of these days, check it out.
Anything in particular that was challenging for you? Anything you had to overcome on set?
A lot of scenes I had to run. A lot. The scene where we were captured at the satellite dishes and then they were marching us down the highway. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I was in the element with Josh Michael, and he's jawing at Morgan. He's talking trash at Morgan. Then the walkers come tumbling down the hill.
I remember seeing you right in screen.
And we haul ass.
Yeah.
Well, I'm at the tail end of that line, and that was a pretty far sprint, and we were having to book it. And the guy in front of me kept slowing down, and I was like, dude, I'm about to run you over. And I'm not, I'm sorry, I'm not breaking any land speed records. I'm not going to try to race an ostrich or a cheetah. So... if he's getting in my way, and he was in good shape, I was like, dude, you gotta move your ass, because I'm about to stampede you. And then we hit like this spot of clay, and it got real slick. So, I almost ate it on that at one point. But when we...
And you guys were really attached, right?
Yeah, we were chained together.
So if one goes down, everybody's going down.
Everybody's going down. Yeah, we were all hooked together.
Oh my
around the waist and around the wrist.
Jeez.
So, and we were chained together for like 3 days.
Oh my God.
2 or 3 days. And, I love Josh Michael, because he really, when that camera's on, he will bring it out of you.
Yeah.
Because he does that. That's his character demeanor. He talks shit. Mm-hmm. And at one point we're running through the woods and he kept screaming at me, "Come on, dead weight, hurry up, you fucking anchor." And I was like, it's the dude in front of me that you're referring to. But I was like, okay, if that's a nickname out here, then I'm going to make it stick. And I sign all my pictures, anchor in quotes at the bottom. And that's a Josh Michaelism that he tagged me with.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was like, I'll take it. When Morgan shot, Greg wanted me to be the one that got clipped. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I need you to do a very exaggerated limp, like you've been winged by that bullet. And they were going to like cut my pants and do some blood work on it and stuff like that. So we're doing it for a couple of takes, and he's like, I need more. So I'm looking around, and I was like, I'm going to put something in my boot to force me to limp.
Oh, yeah.
So one of those little gumball spiky things I found on the ground, and I dropped that in my boot.
Whoa! Oh my gosh, that's commitment.
Yeah, well, I'm hobbling hard, and Josh actually talked about that on an interview. He's like, I think it actually like tore his foot up a little bit, and it did.
Oh my gosh.
There was a little bit of a blister going on there, but it was funny because, I'm running with this thing, and I asked Greg, I was like, is this good? He's like, yes, much better. I was like, all right, cool, because this really hurts. Well, then,
I'm in real pain here.
Well, then he turned around and changed his mind. He's like, no, I want the shot to be in the middle of the line. So then I take this thing out of my boot, and now I really am limping because it rubbed my foot on a spot.
You really hurt
yourself. I was like, yeah, really, can you shoot me at this point? Because I was like, I'm committed now. We're done. It was physically challenging just because of how much running. And at one point, we were going so fast. I mean, we looked like centipede cruising through the trees. And Greg's like, you guys are going to have to slow down. They're like, y'all are like absolutely hauling ass. And we were.
Supposed to be though, right?
Yeah, we were on the move. But yeah, so they want some chaos created. So one of the guys in the middle of the line like fell down. So we're all like trying to get him up, and all this stuff. And, well, you saw the whole melee with that and everything. But yeah, it's kind of challenging, especially for a bigger dude. Look, I'm not a track star. So when you're having me run, essentially wind sprints for 100 plus yards, 13, 14 times.
Yeah.
It gets to be a little much, but you know what, though, you're out there and you're like, this is going to be so badass when it films. You kind of ignore it.
Push through.
Yeah, you just push through. You're huffing and puffing like the big bad wolf, but all right, just give me a swig of water and I'll be good. So.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of what it was. Just several scenes, a lot of running, and plus the ground is so uneven, and plus I was in boots and stuff like that. So. It definitely creates some real life challenges when you're doing it over and over and over. Then you factor in the heat.
Yes, on top of everything, it's hot.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody, even the skinny people, were sweating like crazy. So people are, oh, it's because you're a big old dude. No, the skinny ones were suffering too. So
it's tough out there, and like you said, the uneven ground. Like I think that's probably the most. The one thing that people always talk about, the biggest challenge, the heat, the uneven ground, the running, the constant
bugs,
running.
There's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of everything, so, but that's what makes it so authentic, there's no method acting there, you truly are miserable.
Yeah, just embrace it, embrace the misery.